I'm going to turn things over to Tatiana and Tatiana Pyle, our managing editor, and she'll have our first speaker today.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much, Jill, for the introduction. I am so excited to kick off our first virtual wellness forum in conversation with Yanghee Paik, who is the co-founder and CEO of feminine care brand Rael. So I just want to give a quick introduction about all things Rael and Yanghee. So thrilled to be able to start this conversation off with you. So for those who aren't aware or familiar with Rael, Rael is a brand that's redefining period care by merging beauty, wellness, and community. Since launching in 2017, Rael has taken a holistic approach to menstrual health, expanding beyond traditional period products to skincare and even supplements that are all designed to support the entire cycle. Along the way, the brand has built an engaged community, become most followed brand on feminine care brand on TikTok, which I recently learned, and has built its success on a truly unconventional retail strategy by launching first on Amazon and then expanding into major retailers and DTC. Today, we're going to dive into how Yanghee and her team are shaping the future of period care, driving innovation in hormonal health, and changing the way we think about this category altogether. So, Yanghee, thank you so much again for being here. And let me know if I missed anything in that introduction.
No, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Tatiana.
Of course. So I want to kick off the conversation really talking about the evolution of period care and thinking about it in the context of hormonal care altogether. So period care has long been a category driven by function and necessity. But how do you think the conversation is shifting toward self-care and beauty, and what role does Rael truly play in shaping that narrative?
Yeah. So, when we first started the company back in 2017, I think a lot of people were just grabbing the feminine care products, whatever was available on the shelf. And unfortunately, it was not the space people were paying a lot of attention to. When I went out to talk to the investors, VC community, it was a very novel concept that, founders, like entrepreneurs, were looking into this space. So that's how novel and unknown this space was. I think it came a long way. So now, what we see in period care is that period care is now viewed as part of a wellness routine. So, now people care more about the products they use. And I think there's a little more awareness happening. I mean, thanks to a lot of the indie brands who've been focused on education, like period care products are actually really essential for your health. I mean, there's so many different options you can choose from. And as you're buying organic food, spending a lot on organic or clean beauty, you also want to understand what different options there are in period care and then choose the best option, maybe like we're getting more natural options that would help your lifestyle well-being. So it's great to see as a founder who plays in this field that there's a lot more awareness happening and a lot more attention to period care options. And now it's not just necessity, it's not just like a toilet paper that you buy from stores, but you want to invest in your health by getting better period care products. And then it's not only the blood that you care about, but everything around it too. You get cramps and then you have skin conditions, also happening because of your hormonal changes. So it's evolving to be more like a hormonal health concerns, not only about menstruation and blooding, during that period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. When we were talking prior to the chat today, we talked a lot about, a holistic approach to the entire cycle. And I think for many people, especially people who have uterus, they're familiar with what the cycle means in general, but applying cycle syncing and applying products to different phases of the cycle might be unfamiliar territory to them. So I'm curious, as you grew and expanded Rael, it was really important for you to spread education and awareness about the importance of tracking the entire longevity of the cycle beyond just that period phase. So, I think one of the important things was really convincing the consumers that all of these products were important. So how did you really share this with the consumers? How did you build upon the education and the advocacy about the hormones and the cycle in general?
Yeah. So it's very interesting that actually our expansion to beauty helped us a lot to educate consumers about the different phases of the cycle because I think when you're selling only period care product, that's kind of like all you talk about. But as a brand, actually, after our initial success in period care, we stepped back a little bit and then like looked at different opportunities, different concerns women go through throughout their hormonal cycle. And actually, personally, for me, my biggest frustrations was always my skin conditions right before my period started. So 2, 3 days before my period, I'd always have all these like hormonal acnes on my chin, breakouts happening, and I always wonder why this was happening to my body. And I looked into, kind of like the 4 different phases of the cycle. And, when you get your period, you have sensitive skin, dry skin. After ovulation, you start losing your glow. And then in the week before your period, that's luteal cycle, the worst skincare, worst skin week for you. And then that's when oil production happening, breakouts happening. So we actually have 4 different flavors of facial sheet mask that we launched years ago. And then we started actually talking about, why you want to mix and match, different facial sheet masks to address different concerns you have around throughout the hormonal cycle. And surprisingly, many women came to us said that like I never knew I was going through these 4 different phases, and that was the reason why I was dealing with all these hormonal acne before my period started. So obviously, all these women go through 4 weeks of the cycle, but unfortunately, we don't really pay attention to our bodies and never really spend time to study these different cycles and what we can do better to effectively manage our lifestyle according to those. So it's kind of interesting how beauty actually helped to tell that story very effectively. And then our success of also hormonal pimple patches also helped to, kind of address those issues. So after telling those stories and educating the community about the different cycles, it really became something very interesting and engaging that people were starting to care about.
Hmm. Absolutely. And this subcategory is rapidly growing. There's so many brands that are tapping into the entire cycle, like you talked about, or the hormonal care of it all. So for Rael, what do you think truly differentiates the brand and the approach in this space?
Yeah, so there are a lot of successful brands in the market. A lot of beauty brands who launched supplements, some supplement brand getting into beauty. But I want to say it's more the brand ethos, for us because, we started as an organic feminine care brand, really wanting to improve women's wellness and health. That's at the center of the brand ethos. So we didn't start as a beauty brand, so I think the brand ethos really differentiates us. And then I want to say we're the only brand at the moment who is taking care of the period care as part of wellness. So the fact that we're talking about hormonal changes and how they're impacting the full cycle and then each phase, I think that really puts us in a very unique position. And also the last thing is we are also bringing technology from Korea to make very novel and then effective products. So we're using K-beauty technology, but also a lot of the philosophies around wellness and the pure care also comes from my mother country, Korea. So that's another kind of angle that we're using to make our products very effective and also novel.
Absolutely. And one other thing, segueing to my next question for you that, really differentiates Rael from the conversation that we were having is your approach to growth. We talked about the beginning stages, and one thing that I thought was really interesting that you mentioned was that so many VCs were telling you start DTC first. It makes the most sense for a brand that's coming up that's not backed by a large P&G company. So you talked about starting on Amazon first, and that made the most sense for Rael. So the journey since then has been truly unconventional. You started with Amazon, then you transitioned into major retail partnerships, and then you doubled down on DTC. So what insights have you gained from this approach, and what advice would you give to other founders navigating should they do DTC or retail first or vice versa?
Yeah. So just to share some context, we started the brand in 2017, and this was like the heyday of D2C. So many investors were making investment in D2C companies. And when we presented our plan, we got a lot of pushback from our investors, like, why Amazon when you have to focus on D2C? And we had this clear idea that, in creating D2C, I mean, it's a very sexy concept, but it requires a lot of capital. And as an early stage startup company, we didn't have access to a deep pocket. So, and then we knew that on Amazon, there were a lot of people already willing to pay, for organic pads, searching organic pads. So we took a very bold approach of, okay, let's launch on Amazon first. And then Amazon is great at getting a lot of honest feedback. So all the reviews we gained initially actually helped us perfect our product. So we wanted to really prove the concept through Amazon first. So that helped us a lot to continue making enhancements on our product features. And actually, Amazon was very helpful. Being the bestest seller on Amazon was really helpful to go to retailers and really tell them, how much traction we have gained. D2C, I think, you have to have your own data to show to them, but Amazon customer reviews and then the 5-star reviews were just public information that anybody could go and read. So we got a lot of like trust from the retailers when they went to the Amazon site and they looked at the reviews and all of that. So what I wanna imply to our other founders is that you have to find your own optimal way of distribution. Like there are some trends of what successful founders do, D2C first and then Amazon later and then, retail later. But I think in this environment, when profitability is really important, actually retailers, can help you a lot to really reach a lot of customers without spending too much, marketing dollars in acquiring customers. So there are different ways of, getting to customers and then getting your brand out there. So I just want to say, look at your margin, look at the economics of your D2C and find the most optimal way financially to reach a lot of customers and then get your brand out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for your brand in particular, it was a very smart move. Some of the context information that you shared with me prior was that since launching on Amazon, at this point, there are over 300,000 5-star reviews of Rael products on Amazon.
Yep.
It was the number one pad within 6 months of its launch on Amazon and the number two people patch right behind Mighty Patches on Amazon as well. So Amazon was a really smart choice in launching the brand. And again, like you said, it really does depend on the overall goals that you have for your brand in terms of distribution. So I also want to ask you a question about, the shift that we're seeing in how and where consumers shop. They're not just on Amazon anymore. Now they're on TikTok Shop, and also people are returning into retailers. So how do you think about the role of traditional retail versus digital platforms for Rael's future growth?
Yeah. So, digital platforms are useful, I think, in order to tell the brand story very effectively because, we do holistic cycle care. And when you go to retail, you have to actually play their game. So our feminine care products are sitting in the feminine care aisle. Our beauty is sitting at the beauty aisle. So even though we want to tell the story holistically, we have some limitations to tell that story in the brick and mortar retail space. So we use our digital platforms like the D2C site and also TikTok to really talk about the holistic approach to women's wellness and all these background information that we want to provide to the consumers, the different phases and then the hormonal acne issues we deal with and then the cramps and then we talk about all the discomfort and then concerns people go through because of the hormonal changes. So I think marketing and education happens a lot through digital platforms and our own social media platforms. But retail is great to reach a lot of customers. And I think in the early stage, the fact that Target brought us in and then they created the organic natural segment in the feminine care aisle, which was mainly dominated by big brands, the conventional brands. I think that said a lot, like the big retailers are behind the trend of organic natural period care. They believe in it. So just by having our product over there, I think it was a big endorsement from the big retailers that this is a growing market. And then, just having our products in 2,000 doors of Walmart and then CVS and Walgreens, I think gave us a lot of authority that we're a proven brand and proven concept. And most recently, we actually launched that Ulta full chain with our skincare. And then we're just launching our wellness product on .com and discussing the in-store launches. So, Ulta is also very keen on wellness and showing that that is a trend. And then there is the space for a brand like us, who are taking care of hormonal health. And I think, both our digital platforms and also retailers are working together to really educate the consumers and bringing these, high quality products to the market for better accessibility.
Mm. You talk about two things, education and authority. And I think in this space, especially where a lot of the concepts are very new to a lot of consumers, it just grew and drew a lot of attention and interest to your brand, which is why you have become the number one most followed feminine care brand on TikTok. What have you learned throughout this entire journey about how consumers want to engage with this category, and how does that influence your broader marketing and product strategy?
Yeah, it's really interesting because in the early days on Instagram, we used to show a lot of beautiful, very professionally done content, images, and then when we moved to TikTok, it was very like raw content that we started really providing, and we tested a lot of different content, but the most popular content was actually talking about what women actually go through during their period. So we even talked about like a taboo subject like period poop. So, a lot of women deal with like digestive, concerns and troubles, their period, and nobody talks about it. It's kind of embarrassing, but we started some, content talking about that. So there were a lot of responses, like comments on those content because people could relate to it. And then it's something that they rarely talk about publicly, but they felt like our platform was a safe place where they can talk about any troubles and then problems they deal with throughout their hormonal cycle. So I want to say, through TikTok, we were able to engage a lot of customers through raw, very educational, fun content. And then as a brand, we were able to gain real-time feedback. And then they started pouring like, oh, like I'm concerned about this. I deal with this. I hate my period because of these reasons, etc. So by analyzing those feedback and content, we were able to also use them for our product innovation and then enhancement. So it's a great platform where we can actually interact with our customers and gain a lot of feedback and also understand all the problems they go through. And then we've learned a lot by reading all the comments and engaging with them.
I do want to quickly circle back just to our Amazon conversation because we do have a question from the audience about curating a good system or navigating the system of collecting your reviews on Amazon. Given emerging brands struggle with doing this, how are you able to successfully garner really good reviews?
Yeah, I mean, reviews are really important in order to succeed on Amazon. And unfortunately, they're not like tools you can use, to gather reviews. I know on D2C, you have some services and tools you can use to gather, people's reviews, but on Amazon, that's not really available. So it's a truly fair game. You have to play based on your quality. And what's happening these days, which was not available when we first started, is TikTok, customers moving to Amazon and looking for, products. So that I would say is the emerging trend and the most popular way of bringing new traffic to Amazon now. So a lot of the early new brands are investing in TikTok content, and then because they're not available in stores, all these, customers end up going to Amazon to look for those, products. And then if they like the product, they leave reviews. So I want to say that's kind of like a new trend, but unfortunately, review population just needs to be done organically, and product quality is, the most important, to get that on Amazon.
Absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially when you're talking about newer trends. I've heard a lot of people talk about they go to TikTok for the search and then they go to Amazon to buy the product. So
Exactly.
it's interesting the way those two things work together. And I think, going back to the conversation of making sure that you're answering questions that, consumers may have around such a new space, education and being an authority in the space are going to really help drive and fuel that growth for new brands and newer emerging subcategories. So I want to really talk about hormonal health a little bit more in depth because it's, again, something that is not a new concept because there have been women on this planet for forever, but it's getting such a new light around it. So there are many conversations that are happening now that may have not been as open dialogue before. So, what gaps are you seeing in the consumer knowledge, and how do you approach educating the audience in an engaging way?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, we are always very surprised how little knowledge, women actually have in terms of their hormonal cycle or even like period related and then perimenopause related. So I think we're starting from very basic, because women don't love going to OBGY doctor, so they have a lot of questions, but they don't have places to go to actually ask all the embarrassing questions. So, we're being this platform to provide more information, very honest information and also science-based information, to those. And I think as they learn more about what women go through based on these different phases, then I think, there will be a lot more conversations happening, around hormonal health. Even like menopause, perimenopause was something that women didn't feel comfortable talking much about, but now it's actually happening. So I think period care was kind of like the first topic in place that kind of like opened or broke the taboo subject. And then anything after that, hormonal wise that's happening in women's life, I think it's kind of like getting the attention and then opening up. So I love the fact that there are a lot of brands now, coming into this space, like opening up the conversations and then breaking taboos. So more of those will happen in the future.
Absolutely. And what a great segue into my final question for you. We will be talking about many of those categories that you just mentioned throughout the entirety of our conversation today. So the wellness space is growing so rapidly. And as a result, like you said, hormonal health is getting such a great flash or light shined on it. So there's innovations in femtech, there's innovations in hormonal health, and even personalized care. How is Rael thinking about innovation? And most importantly, what's next for the brand?
Yeah, so I mean, we're very excited that we are expanding a lot in skincare, really tackling the hormonal acne, and that we just launched our supplement focused on hormone balance and vaginal probiotics. So we still have a lot to do with the products that we just launched. So we want to tell the holistic cycle care story, and then educate consumers about why they need to start caring about these hormonal cycle, but eventually, what the brand wants to do is, we want to be the companion to women throughout their life. So for the time being, we're more focused on the age group, who are concerned about periods. But, we want to also look at women's lifestyle from first period, pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, and menopause. There are all these journeys and then hormonal transitions that happen throughout women's life. So we want to be the brand who helps women go through all these transitions and uncomfortable moments and then want to be there with them for many, many years of their lives. So that's the vision of the brand and what we want to be.
Amazing. Well, we are so excited to see what Rael has in store.